Hey there, friends. Welcome back to Hawkeye Speaks. This morning I'm just going to chat with you for a moment about science, the state of the world, and science. Science is like a mousetrap with the tastiest of treats held within. It draws out the most clever of mice from the family and allures them into a deadly trap. Science is an enticement, we should say, to the very most brilliant of all within the human family, to follow pursuits of pleasurable attainment and expressions of knowledge that lead only to a service of a military-industrial complex. Now, there may be exceptions, and indeed there are. Science is not the scientific method, but science is the pursuit of knowledge and the methods of obtaining and articulating upon such. But a word of caution to all is that the technocratic governance of all of humanity is the aim of true imperialism. And it is a word of caution to all who endeavor to articulate upon their endeavors of the attainment of knowledge to be very careful how their wisdom will be used. The military-industrial complex is not a weapon of war or a methodology of war. It is a method and mechanism of total domination of the human population. The military-industrial complex is better thought of and described as the military-industrial, pharmaceutical, chemical, agrochemical, and fiat currency industrial complex. And it is important to consider the aspect of the fiat currency as part and parcel of the complex, because the entire ethos of this banking system is the modality of the creation of something out of nothing, a magic trick, if you will. And the magic trick always employs the strategies and specific tactics of harvesting true wealth from those that have it most and putting it into the hands of those who want it most. So, agrochemicals, poisons for allegedly growing crops to feed peoples is a nasty, nasty, nasty business indeed. Pharmaceuticals is part of the antibody, anti-life theory of disease, the methods, mechanisms, and mentality of kill and control, kill everything you don't want and control what you do want. This is the foundation of industrialized agriculture, but also the mentality of pharmaceutical medicine. The silver bullet idea of dis-ease, that there is one specific drug for one specific disease. This has always been a fallacy, because dis-ease is much more complicated than singularity of origin. The decoding of the human genome and its epic failure proved that all too well. And if anyone did not take the time within the last great global narrative to go back and study the history of the germ, they might wish to do so. I urge you to. The story of Pasteur versus Béchamp is a quite interesting tale indeed. Germs are not indeed the cause of disease. Microorganisms show up to carry out ecosystem function and when foodstuffs that they enjoy and are obligate to survive upon are in abundance, then they proliferate, and this can be called infection. But as Florence Nightingale elegantly, or I don't know if elegant is the right word, but so accurately described, the germ theory of disease is the grand refuge of the weak and feebly minded man. She points out that it is only through our ignorance, our lack of true knowledge, that we would subscribe to such means. Though it must be said that the germ theory and the terrain theory of dis-ease are both very true, but it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is to sell a pharmaceutical, a silver bullet cure for a single disease, then it well suits you to sell also the germ theory. Science, the pursuit of knowledge, and the methods of attaining and articulating upon discovery, is co-opted by this military, industrial, pharmaceutical, agrochemical, fiat currency system. And I must caution all of those with such brilliant minds as to be accepted within the realms of academic science, that they must, I ask you, I plead of you, to define your cause, purpose, and goal with the utmost of fortitude, lest all of your great wisdom shall be used for these negative, destructive, and imperial causes. It is the story of science that all ideas that run counter to mainstream interests get buried, squashed, get swept under the rug, and hidden from the public eye, while those that have the potential to serve the industrial complex get put upon pedestals. And all of those brilliant minds who work in the fields of science are held behind the curtain from seeing such truths, with the ever alluring treats of paychecks and pomp and pride, in a way. For it is a lovely experience to be recognized for your intellectual pursuits, and to receive a paycheck for such is the utmost of an enjoyable experience, while also it is the tastiest treat within the mousetrap. Be careful that your snacking upon such treats does not foolishly cause the hammer to fall down on the back of your head, and for you to be swept under the rug. All ideas in science that run counter to the mainstream goal of an imperialist, technocratic governance of the entire world shall be neatly swept under the rug once again. So, this is just a few thoughts on science in general this morning to share with you. I enjoy very much following such brilliant people, so many brilliant people writing papers on cognitive science within all realms of regenerative medicine, biology. I love it. I love following this stuff. But it has been very sad to me to see so many brilliant minds within these fields of science and also philosophy who do not articulate upon their work in such a way as to connect it back to the living world which we are currently a part of. That we are and have a very much integral and participatory nature within. For we are not separate from the world around us. The Gaia theory is not about a woo-woo goddess nature of the earth, though that is a very nice thing to believe in, and I encourage it wholeheartedly. But for anyone within the science, it is incumbent upon us all to realize the true nature of the Gaia theory and the scientific discoveries that we're developing at the same time that are too big to fit into the laboratory, that are too big to be replicated within the scientific method enclosed within laboratory walls, and thus exist outside of the realm of the military-industrial complex's needs and desires. These are ideas such as the soil food web, holistic management, regenerative and adaptive grazing, sustainable as in truly sustainable and efficient home building, and in general the principle of fecundity, the idea that nature builds systems that are generative and regenerative, and we are indeed, if we choose to remain such, a part of nature, that we can, should, could, and hopefully would and will participate within living systems in such a way as to leave the earth a better place than we found it, as to create more fertility. This is the principle of fecundity than what we take away. We have the means, the ability, and hopefully the will to do so. Science is co-opted by the industrial complex. And I urge you all to once again state your goals clearly and define your position with a militaristic defense, lest you become part of the enemy's army. I will close out this brief discussion this morning with a reading from James Tunney's Mythic Aim of AI. What is the reality? The reality is global, technotronic, total governance. And I've just opened to a random page here. There's many, many good passages within this book. And if you would enjoy, I will read more of them to you, or I would also suggest that you purchase the book for yourself and read it. It certainly appears to be self-published, though it is available on the tech giant platform of book distribution. So we see a sketch of the general myth of progress at work, which elevates AI in a magically fetishistic way. It does so at the expense of the human. Enthronement of AI must reduce the capacity of the human. The human is reduced to an animal. Insofar as they are dangerous and stupid animals, they cannot compete with the serenely natural and beneficial force of AI. AI just emerged miraculously, untainted by human parents, uninfected with their original sin. The human is either naturally in awe of this implicitly divine force or reduced to fear by its unstoppable nature. If we dig a bit deeper, we may even find an attempt to live out divinely inspired statements. By reference to Babylon, an association of powers over the impossible, some humans can now acquire and dispense with helplessness they have in relation to the divine forces, just like Prometheus. The rightful prince is coming. If AI is really about the creation of a comprehensive network of converged control systems for the benefit of concentrations of transnational power to govern, we should focus on that aim rigorously and resist distractions of mythic associations. AI is a force to facilitate factors in global governance. If we are to use myth, we should be clear about the phenomena and not confuse the hype. My argument centers on the idea that everything is really about governance, and particularly governance of intelligence and consciousness. Every major philosopher or artist deals with the issue. Governance applies to personal, social, and corporate or collective intelligence and consciousness. Religion is a real story about the hierarchy of intelligence and spiritual consciousness. The Greek philosophers were concerned with how to organize society. Political theory is about organization of intelligence. In this story, The figures most associated with governance, i.e., emperor, Caesar, czar, king, queen, prince, princess, hierophant, etc., recur. They may be rightful or wrong people in power. The place may be a particular one, i.e. Rome or an empire. There may be opposing forces, which may be legitimate or illegitimate. They may be celebrated as saviors or outlaws and castigated for that reason. The struggle for power produced a dynamic or dialectical force. Power reaches from the top right into your mind and soul. Where or whether the mundane principality ends and the unseen starts are other fundamental questions. For many, the question of governance and proper mode becomes the ruling question. Who rules and how determines all others as they converge. An individual might want to remain aloof, but these questions will enter their communities, houses, and heads, whether they like it or not. The claim to point to the future, promised land, utopia, heaven, is associated with a direction of entitlement to leadership. So once again, if you enjoyed this discussion, let me know, and I will be happy to continue on in the thread. It's a very important consideration. What's discussed within this book, the global technocratic governance of all of humanity, and not just human endeavor, but human consciousness itself, is well within worth of consideration. But also, I urge you all who are brilliant minds and involved within the fields of science and philosophy to consider that the true history and story of science is not, in fact, a pretty one. Though it is very enticing and alluring, as I had said, to get a paycheck, to gain accolades, and to receive the prestige of becoming a celebrated intellectual. But, once again, if your ideas run counter to mainstream interests, your work will be swept under the rug. Please define clearly the true goal, and I hope and urge that it is a holistic goal that considers not our immediate needs and desires, but the needs of our species and of all of life on earth. For the principle of fecundity is very real indeed, that we can leave the earth a better place than we found it. Thank you.